Good evening, everybody. This is going to be my presentation for Intelligence Analysis of Organized Crime, final paper. And the group that I picked for my final paper is the Foxtrot networks. So unlike a lot of the groups that we've talked about over the course of this class, this group is based almost entirely in Sweden, with a little bit of their network existing in Turkey and throughout the other Nordic nations. But there's no United States contingent of the Foxtrot network. There's nothing in the Americas or South America, and there's really no impact on the U.S. directly. But this is a real group that is growing in size and in the amount of violence that they're using. And they have made some major jumps recently in how they are operating with Iran. So let's get right into it. First off, the Foxtrot network is a network that is based out of Sweden, although almost no one that operates or orchestrates their operations live in Sweden. Most of them live in Turkey and Iran these days. So Sweden, you think of Sweden, you think of you think of IKEA, you think of the meatballs, you think of the Vikings, but they are a country that's often in popular media defined by their humility, their peacefulness, and their extremely progressive social policies. When you hear about Sweden in the news, it's often about how they've instituted some new hyper-progressive policy that allows you to, take X amount of days off for paid family leave, or something of that nature. And while, yes, a lot of these things hold true, and Sweden is a fantastic country and beautiful country, they are not immune from having their own crime problems, and they're not immune from having organized crime problems either. Over the past 5 years, most, if not almost all, of their organized and crime problems have originated from just one group. And that group is the Foxtrot network. And the Foxtrot network is the brainchild of Ruha Majid. So Ruha Majid, also known as the Kurdish fox or Kurdish Karavan, it was born in Iran, but he grew up in Sweden his whole life. So despite not having a very Swedish sounding name and having the title the Kurdish fox, he didn't migrate here when he was in his teens or whatever. He came over here less than a year old, and he's been living in Sweden, specifically in Uppsala, ever since he got here. By all accounts, he had a very normal life. He grew up in Uppsala, which is it's a very well-off area. They are known for their university there. It's sort of like their Cambridge, like where Harvard is. That's what Uppsala is. He showed interest in entrepreneurship growing up. He had an ice cream stand that he would sell ice cream to people walking around Uppsala in the summer, and apparently he did very well in his business classes that he took in their version of high school, which sort of like blends into our college a little bit. They go to high school until they're 19, and they specialize after a certain number of years. But unfortunately, his interest did not end at just regular, legitimate entrepreneurship, and he expanded himself into crime. So he got arrested for the first time when he was 19 years old, and he was arrested for cigarette trafficking, like the thing that we talked about earlier. And he was in and out of jail for petty crimes throughout most of the 2010s. And his last time he was in prison for an assault charge. And that led him up until 2015. So he got out of prison in Sweden in 2015. And despite Sweden's very rehabilitation-focused prison system, didn't quite do its job. He got out of prison and immediately started building back up his contacts to establish his new his new criminal empire. He caught a big break because the Swedish authorities were able to break into an encrypted chat called EncroChat that the Swedish criminal underworld had been using profusely. And then through this, they compiled a whole bunch of information and a lot of chats that a lot of other Swedish criminal organizations were using. and they collapsed in on them and they arrested a whole bunch of people. Now, Ruwa Majid got lucky because he had already left Sweden, and he initially left to Iraq. He left Iraq and then used some of his finances to purchase a citizenship in Turkey. Something you can do there, you can invest in like an apartment complex or something, and they'll give you citizenship, kind of similar to what we just started with the gold card thing. But he had left, so he did not get caught up in that. But the result was a huge vacuum that he was able to fill. So here comes the Foxtrot network. They came in and they took over a lot of the drug trade, especially because he's operating it from outside of Sweden. He is now able to coordinate a massive international drugs and arms trade, mostly. The drugs that they trafficked were mostly marijuana and cocaine. I was actually surprised that these were not already legal in Sweden with all their progressive policies. I figured they would have done the whole legalize all drugs thing. But yeah, marijuana, cocaine, and amphetamines are the big ones that they're trafficking in. And since they started, the amount of drug usage in Sweden has skyrocketed. It's gone. Border Patrol seized over 11 metric tons of cocaine in the years after they stopped. 1 year after they started doing that, and they unfortunately did not stop there, because the issue with the Foxtrot network is not so much the drugs; it's what they are doing to gain control of the drug market. So, what Ruwa Majid's modus operandi has been is to approach the head kingpin of a particular region. Let's say he goes to Malmö in Sweden, which is in the southern Skåne region of Sweden. It's right near Denmark. He approaches the person who's the head of that area, and he says, hey, you're now going to sell my product. And most of those people will say, why would I do that? Why would I sell your product? I have my own product. I'll make more money. I'm not going to do that. And Majid knows this. He knows that they're going to say no. So what he does is he takes the second most prominent drug selling organization in that region, and he approaches their leadership. Now, these people are usually younger. They're more ambitious. And he says, I will give you resources. I will give you weapons. I will give you money. And in exchange, you're going to overthrow this existing section here, and we are going to run this together. So the result of that is that, yes, Ruwa Majid is able to take control of a large portion of the drug crime in Sweden. Unfortunately, it results in a very high volume of gang-on-gang violence and getting a lot of people caught in the crossfire. So this erupts into a whole bunch of violence in 2020 and 2022, and Ruwa Majid starts going after like the Dahlin network, which is the other existing network that didn't get caught up in the EncroChat thing. And as he's doing that, he's operating out of Turkey, and he has people in Turkey as well. As he's doing that, there's a split within his organization. People aren't comfortable going after the big guys, and there's a schism. And what ends up happening is they start breaking on each other, and his right-hand man, a man named Ismail Abdo, ends up turning on him. Ismail Abdo's nickname or street name is the Strawberry. So you end up with a children's book type thing, which is the fox and the strawberry are going after each other, but it's very violent. They end up going after each other's families. They end up going after each other's infrastructures. And the most destructive part of what he's doing is that he is recruiting children. And this is not just unique to Sweden. Other areas are doing it, but the Foxtrot network and Sweden specifically are doing it a lot worse. So in Sweden, there are very specific laws that anyone under the age of 15, not only, they can't be charged as a juvenile, whatever, they aren't prosecuted. Under the age of 15, you're not prosecuted. And between 15 to 18, you usually aren't jailed. And if you are, you go to a youth facility where it's not even closed. You can leave for the day and you come back, and there's a maximum sentencing of 4 years. So there's a lot of incentive for these groups to go after these young kids and recruit them into committing their violence. And the way they do it is really distressing. They will put out hits basically on social media, advertising a job. And kids will reach out either because they want the money, they want to feel cool, or they're just curious. And they'll ask them to put their passport up to the camera, and they will then say, okay, now we have you. So if you don't go through with this job, we will kill you and we will kill your family. And unfortunately, that has resulted in a skyrocketing number of youth crimes committed across Sweden. They have increased 400% from 2019 to 2023 in terms of the violent crimes that are committed by people under the age of 18, between the age of 18 and 15. And in girls alone, there were I think 280 girls that were arrested for murder or assault in 2024. So they're really effective at targeting these young kids and then ensnaring them into doing what they want, to go after their rival gangs. And then they will pressure them throughout the way. They'll stay on the phone with them. So you'll see the video recordings of them going up and committing these crimes, and they have one hand on the phone and the other hand on the weapon, with the person encouraging them to go through with it and commit the crimes. So this increase in child crime has led to calls within the Swedish government to decrease the age at which they can be held criminally responsible. So the Swedish government is looking to lower that to 13 instead of 15. And then to also expand the detention facilities and increase some of the punishments to de-incentivize not just the children, but also Foxtrot from recruiting children. Because there's no point in going after somebody who is going to look at the consequences and decide that it's not worth it. We're not going to do that. And then, wow, I'm already out of time here. So the other aspect of what Foxtrot has been about recently is that part of this gang war added a lot of pressure to Majid. And Ruha Majid fled to Iran, and he gets to Iran, and he gets immediately arrested. And according to Israeli authorities, they gave him an ultimatum, and they said, you are either going to act on behalf of the Iranian security services, and you're going to conduct attacks within Sweden and Europe, or you're going to stay in prison forever or worse. And Ruha Majid, the Kurdish fox, he is a survivor, and he has a very strong survival instinct, so he chose option one. It's unclear at this time how much of that is ideological overlap, how much he actually wanted to help the Iranians, how much he cares about it with his own Kurdish background, whether or not he has any kind of ideological overlap with the Swedes, with the Iranians against the Swedes. But the result is that he has been using this method of contracting and influencing children to carry out these attacks against Israeli and Jewish targets, specifically the Israeli embassy, and then once against a Jewish center in Gothenburg, or Göteborg, however you want to pronounce it. And that has been the most recent thing. In 2025, the US and the UK both added sanctions on the network, designating it as a transnational criminal organization supporting Iran and the IRGC. It is unclear right now whether or not they're going to be designated as a foreign terrorist organization. But I think right now, with the response to the refugees that have entered Sweden since 2014, when ISIS declared the caliphate, pushing them towards a sort of right-wing anti-migrant stance, in addition to the Foxtrot network and the Roomba network, which is Ismail Abdo's network, although he's in jail now, both hopping on the Iranian payroll. I think there is a chance that we see some kind of convergence between them and the IRGC, and where they stop acting so much as criminal actors that are profit-seeking, and they begin acting ideologically, and the people that end up taking those jobs are doing it less so for money and more so as an ideological thing. So I think there's a chance we see some terrorist activity convergence between them and the IRGC. I would love to talk to you more about it. If anyone has any questions, I flew to Sweden in August. I thought it was October. It's August. Talked to a few people there about it. It was a great time. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk more about this. Thank you. I can't find my cursor.